Welcome everybody in the Off the Ball Network fandom and beyond to a special edition of the Bunts and Bruises podcast. This is a special episode here of BNB, something that we've been waiting for a while to do. This was actually supposed to end off season one for us. This is going to be a very unique episode. This is going to be the last episode of season one before that, but there were some difficulties, a couple, unforeseen circumstances came and went, and we had to delay this, but finally a special interview that we've been planning for a little bit now came through, and we're just excited for you guys to listen to it here in the special episode. As always, you're two, men leading the ship here. Myself, the NHL guru, the connoisseur, as some of my friends call me, Iceman Jurg, and of course, as always, with me, the man who set this interview up. He put in the work, ladies and gentlemen, and he got this interview for us. The man, the myth, the legend, the future. I will push this. Baseball Hall of Famer, Don James Marcia. James, how we doing?
Feeling like $1 million after this interview, Jurg. This hands down highlight of my young career. Highlight of your young career. It was awesome, man, because I'm not even going to hold it back anymore. So special episode fans is we were able to book an interview with the one, the only Chris Carlin of ESPN New York Radio. He has his show weeknights, 7 p.m. It's Carlin. And he's also the play-by-play announcer for the Rutgers football team and two-time award-winning New Jersey announcer of the year. It was crazy. It was a dream come true, Jurg. Like, no pun intended, not trying to over-exaggerate. Everyone knows me. I love over-exaggerating, throwing all these hyperboles. This easily was like one of the greatest things ever because I hear this man on the radio almost every day religiously. So the fact that he was cool enough to take some time out of his day, like you said it. At first, I did not believe this interview was going to happen at all after a while because he postponed on us once and then twice and then 3 times. But, he's a busy guy. It's the truth. He did. But
it also wasn't 3 times, by the way. Let's not over-exaggerate that much.
All right. 2 times too many, Jurg. But regardless, though, it was awesome. He was just as cool a dude as you ever thought he'd be. And I was speechless and just thankful for the opportunity. Oh, fun fact. I want to let the people know the story of how we got the interview. So, as you guys just heard, I listen to ESPN radio almost religiously. So, one night, driving home, and, he's on the radio. And I know his show, sometimes you get lucky. If you listen religiously and you actually call in, I don't call in all the time, but I call in once in a while, you start picking up when is the best time to call and when they're going to answer your calls. So I figured, hey, they're talking Mets. Let me call my man Carlin because it's around the time where you could get connected. And lo and behold, I did get connected. And asked my Mets question, whatever. I was sneaky about it. Their producer definitely hates me, but it's all right. I was like, yeah, I got this Mets question, yada, yada, yada. And then, and I got a Nets question. It wasn't a Nets question at all, obviously. So I asked my Mets question. He answers it. And then I go, all right. And so here's my second question for you, Mr. Carlin. I'm a young, aspiring podcaster, and it would be a complete dream and honor to have you on, sir. And Mr. Carlin said yes. And, he said it after he hung up on me because, of course, I'm still listening to the show. He's like, how can you say no to that if the kid calls in? But he also did say how he loves helping out all us inspiring podcasters because he knows this is the new wave. Even if, you're not going to ever end up on ESPN. We may never end up on ESPN, Jurg. Fingers crossed, pray to God, I end up having a sportscasting job.
This is all I have for my future. I have 0 other skills in my life, so I need this to work out.
Well, me, on the other hand, Jurg, everyone knows you're the smarter half of both of us. But regardless, I thoroughly enjoy talking sports. There's no better highlight of my week than to hop on here with you, and it was to talk just, shoot the stuff with literally one of my favorite radio hosts and you, and just to listen. And it wasn't like you guys are going to hear it because this is a previously recorded interview, obviously. But it was just to hear him, and he actually treated it almost like it was basically a regular radio interview, and just the details and the passion he was answering some, because we did ask questions aside from sports. We did go into a little bit about him and whatnot. It was awesome, man. I was riding that high for all day. I'm still riding that high. I'm about to watch the interview again after this recording, Jurg. So what was your thoughts on this interview, man?
just like you said, the fact that he gave us this opportunity is just the most amazing thing in the world. Like he doesn't have to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't. But the fact he took his time out to give us this opportunity, just to communicate with us, was already one thing. Because I have spoken to, when I was in college, one of my professors for one of my courses, my sports broadcasting / business course, like he's actually a producer and I think like game director at ESPN. And I've had the honor to meet like some people. I met Michael Weissman, famous sports director. He's done Super Bowls, World Series. Like I've met him. I've
Yeah.
spoken a little bit to him. Absolutely outstanding, right? And so to the fact that Carlin gave us the time to speak to us, like it just truthfully meant the world. It really did. And like you said, like he didn't shrug it off. He didn't give like any half heart. He was straight up with all his answers. Like he spoke to it like he was speaking with like a colleague essentially, or like answering a question on the show. And that to me is like one of the best parts about it. Like God's honest truth. The fact that we got to interview him was amazing. The fact that he treated it with the utmost class, seriousness. Like we had some fun with some of the questions. We had a little bit of a good time. Like it was just an amazing experience. And we say it in the show as well, but we just cannot say it enough. Like just thank you to him to give us that time. Just truthfully thank you to him for giving us the time and for the interview. And it was just a lot of fun, man. Like to get to interview him, like you said, biggest interview of both our careers, like to this point by far, because of all he's ever accomplished and all his roles too. Like this is a guy who's been around for a long time. He's worked with some of the biggest names in sports radio / media. So the fact that we got to speak to him for a little bit, like it is just the amazing thing. It was just so outstanding. And I can't say enough good about it. I really can't. And the wait, I know it was a little bit tough, James, but it was worth it. It really was worth it for us to get to have the experience, to get to enjoy it. I loved it.
Oh, for sure, man. It was your guys are gonna hear me. I want to apologize now. Like you heard the nerves in my voice. It was almost like it was the first episode of Bunts and Bruises, or like the first time we, had our warm-up episode, the Super Bowl show, me and you, Jerg. It was just I couldn't stop smiling, man. It was insane, dude, because like he was taking this serious too, because before we even started recording, he was like, hang on, something's on my, like his camera looked fine to me.
Right.
But he didn't accept that. He said, no, there's something, it could look better. He made sure he took it, adjusted it, zoomed in, made sure it was good quality. It was like, all right, we're good to go. He even hit his little on air light to show like no one walk into the studio base. Man, I can't say enough good things about this interview. It was just so exciting. Like you said, at one point I was just over it, because I was just like, hey, that's it. He's not going to interview with us. I'm over it. I don't care if he actually does. Then he came, and I was like, oh, God, yes.
And it was the greatest thing in the world. Just the whole process to get to it, and the fact that we finally got to interview him, it was just absolutely the greatest thing. Like you said before, so it's a pre-recorded interview, guys, of course, for the special episode. And this intro is coming after, because obviously we're telling you guys about the interview. But honestly, just get set for a fun interview. It's pretty quick. It's just under a half hour after you listen to us babble in this intro. But it's a quick, about half hour, just us, talking about sports, talking about his career, talking about, even going a little bit past sports, like some of the minutia, the nuances of things. And that, I think, was one of the best things. So I don't think there's much else to say here, James. Like I said from the top, you're the reason that this interview happened. Stop! Don't even try. Don't even try to be me and play yourself down. That's my shtick, not yours. And I'm gonna give you the honor, because the first voice that people will hear when it comes to the interview is me. But the last voice that they need to hear in this intro is you, James. Hype it up. Lead us all into the biggest interview of our careers so far with Chris. Lead the people into this journey, my man.
So as you heard, we're done gassing it up. Let's just get right into it. Without further ado, here is our interview with two-time award-winning NJ Broadcaster of the Year, Rutgers Play-by-Play man, host of Carlin on ESPN, former producer, also former host of the SNY Mets post and pre-game. The man did it all. But without further ado, guys, Mr. Christopher Carlin.
Mr. Carlin, Chris, thank you so much for joining us for the interview. We've been ecstatic to be able to do this entire time, and to finally be speaking to you is just the greatest thing in the world. So we're going to get straight into the questions in and of itself with regards to what we have planned. And the first one I want to ask you about, because I know you are a massive hockey fan. as am I, is the news that has broken in recent months with the NHL's new TV agreement, one with TNT, one of their TV rights deals with them, but also one with ESPN. And I kind of want to ask you, from your perspective, everyone's talking about how great it's going to be for the NHL that they're going to be back on ESPN. More people are going to be watching it on ESPN2 probably on most nights than people that were actually watching it on NBC, despite the fact that that was NBC's flagship. But I want to ask you, in your opinion, on looking at it from the other way of, why will this relationship, not only will it be good for the NHL, why will it also be good for the ESPN to welcome back hockey into the fold?
I think it's a couple of things. Number one, for ESPN, they're now, as everybody is, in the process of continuing to try to build up their digital platform and ESPN Plus. And I think the more games that you can put on not only the linear ESPN networks, but also ESPN Plus, adds value to that. It's one of those things where they have, as a company, been able to put ESPN Plus and Disney Plus together, and you're constantly trying to get people to subscribe for the $6.99 a month or whatever it is, for those two networks together, or even just separately. I think that's one of the big things, because if you go on ESPN Plus right now, you can virtually watch any game that's going on in college athletics, or anything that's really going on in baseball. It's pretty good. I shouldn't say fully baseball yet because of MLB.com, but they've been able to put games up on ESPN Plus. It just offers them a place to put everything, and offers people a place to see the games that they want to see. So I think it's very important for them on that front. And look, for the NHL to be on ESPN, I think is important. I think, look, that ESPN NHL music is iconic, right? And you think about the great announcers that they've had over the years doing hockey. A lot of memorable moments for hockey were on ESPN, and I think it's great that it's back.
You were very excited, right? Like you were just smiling when you saw the news.
See, you guys, you think I don't like hockey at all? It's not that. I do like hockey. I do. My job is to cater to what most of our audience wants, and I know the hockey fan has always felt this way, and I understand it, that they get kind of short shrifted by media coverage and by television coverage and by sports radio. And I get it. I understand that. The problem is that the hockey fan is a very vocal minority. It is a group of fans that are diehards. And I'll give you an example, okay? A few years ago, I went to Philadelphia to work down there. And I went in with the mindset of, well, obviously the Eagles are number 1, 2, and 3, but I thought the Flyers would be pretty high on the pecking order in terms of the sports fans. It's very similar to what it is in the New York tri-state area. They sell out a lot of their games, and they have the diehards that are going to be there, but there is that base, and it's not the wide base that you would want it to be in each city. So I think on the ESPN front, this is going to do nothing but help the sport. And I also think that my job as a talk show host is, it's a little like top 40, play the hits, right? What do people care about the most right now? When they care the most about hockey, it has to do usually with the postseason and the Rangers and Islanders and Devils and such. But, during the regular season, there's a lot of things going on. There's basketball. There's, there's obviously football second half of the season into the postseason. So there's a lot going on for hockey to battle with for airtime.
Since you mentioned your job and talking about, playing the top 40s, talking about what everyone wants to hear, I actually want to hear, what is your top 40 of all the many roles you've played? Because if you're an ESPN fan, you're the busiest working man on the station. There's no exaggeration, because you tell the fans you're pulling into New York at like 5 a.m. Half the time they got you doing 2 shows a day. So of every role you played, between yesterday for Rutgers, you did play-by-play, from when you were a producer, for Mike and Mad Dog, or even now for you being a radio host for your own show, Carlin, what out of all those roles and any other role I might have missed, what is your personal favorite role in the industry?
I think it's right now. I think it's doing talk shows. And I don't get me wrong, I love doing Rutgers as well. But when I first came out of college, I wanted to be the next Marv Albert, and I'm not. I kind of recognize what my limits are and how good I am at something. I think I'm a pretty good play-by-play announcer, but I'm just not at that level, and that's okay. I feel like on the talk show front, I am more than capable of being at that level because I've been able to see some results before. We all know my career's been a little all over the place in recent years, but it doesn't have to do with results, and that's what I think is really something that I feel great about. I went down to Philadelphia, and our show was steadily growing before I came back to New York. And when I worked with Maggie and Bart, we got ratings, and we were doing well while I was at the station. They obviously made some decisions early that they felt would be best for them. At the same time, I'm proud of what we did and how we were able to accomplish that. So for me, it's funny because I never thought I wanted to do talk shows, even when I was producing for Mike and the Mad Dog. It was never kind of at the forefront of my mind. And then I just seemed to develop this need for me to tell you what I think and for that to be important to you. It sounds like an arrogant thing to say, but for whatever reason, that was just something that I wanted. So it was a ways away from there. I went into TV for a while too. And I did the Mets pre and post game show, and I hosted that, and I hosted Sports Night on SNY. And that was a great 8.5 years that I was there, but I really missed this. And that's why I left SNY. I could have stayed there and frankly still been there. But I decided that I wanted to give something different a shot and try something new in my career. Not even new, but just get back to doing sports talk, because that's what I was most comfortable, not even comfortable, just excited every day to do. And also excited to take a chance when I went to Philadelphia, and I went from SNY down there, and it was different. It was great, and I'm glad I did. Wouldn't change anything about it. I think this right now is where I really kind of enjoy the most.
They say if you love waking up every day doing what you do, and honestly, if you could imagine, Chris, if the two of us were in your shoes, we'd be living the dream, of course. But since you're speaking about going back to your roots, what was your back in the day? We're talking about SNY, but let's go back to the Mike and Mad Dog. What was your favorite memory, and how was that environment for Mike and Mad Dog?
You know what? It was great. It was 7+ years. I was thinking about it last night with all the 9/11 stuff. Boy, I don't know if I have a favorite moment, but there are just times that I can't believe that I got to be a part of, because I worked on that show. I've been able to go to 11 Super Bowls. That's freaking ridiculous. I've been able to go to a lot of NBA finals, World Series, Stanley Cup finals, that I could have never imagined getting a chance to do. And then you work on the most iconic sports talk show that's ever been. And I mean, guys, when I was in college, I was listening to that while I was home on break, driving around for delivering for Hassler's Pharmacy in Chatham, New Jersey. I loved listening to it, and really got into a very fortunate position to get to produce it for as long as I did. It was stressful. That's when I lost my hair. And it's no exaggeration, because you have to deliver every day. And that's what's important. You have to deliver the guests. You have to there is a good amount of pressure involved in it. But looking back on it, would not have traded that for anything in the world. That was a great experience.
I mean, Chris, you talk about, speaking of delivering, one of your current roles, as you said, you do play-by-play for Rutgers football. And when it comes to having to do play-by-play for games in general at the collegiate level, you have to deliver, because whoever's listening to you, they want to hear you, tell the story of the game properly, and especially the fan base of the school. If it's a rabid one, like I'm sure Rutgers fan base can be when it comes to football and football in general, because it's so big, you have to deliver there. Can you so in regards to your time now at Rutgers and kind of delving into a deep for college football in general, the recent shakeup in the conferences with the news that Texas and Oklahoma are going to be moving to the SEC, with then weeks later it came out that schools are applying to be in the Big Ten Conference and in the ACC. How do you think that's going to impact the landscape of college football as a whole? And then also specifically when it comes to Rutgers, because Rutgers is a school, they themselves moved into the Big Ten years ago. How do you think that's worked out for Rutgers, and what do you foresee that, how do you foresee it going for all these schools that want to switch conferences now?
Look, I think it couldn't have been a better situation for Rutgers. It really couldn't have been. You are in an incredible conference. I think it's the best conference in America, and I'm not just saying that because I'm biased right now. When you look at overall everything that's involved between football and basketball and other sports as well, I think it's been brilliant. It's been fantastic for Rutgers. Tim Pernetti, when he was athletic director, did an amazing job to get Rutgers into the Big Ten, and Greg Schiano, his first time around, building the program up the way they did, they were truly able to show that football can be representative to work in the Big Ten. And now that he's back, it's back on track, so to speak, to do that again. I think that's fantastic. I think overall, we're headed for 3 mega conferences eventually. It's going to be the SEC, the Big Ten, and the ACC. And they might go by different names at some point down the road. But even with the moves that the Big 12 made this week, which were good moves because they brought in 4 top 40 media markets with Houston and UCF and BYU. They've done a terrific job in trying to recover, but you don't recover from losing Texas and Oklahoma. And it's not a knock on those other schools. It's just not. The popularity of those 2 schools and the power of those 2 schools, there was a reason the SEC wanted them. I look at the Pac-12, and you had 3 commissioners who were in their first or second year between the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12, forming an alliance, that really meant absolutely nothing. It was a handshake deal that we're not going to steal each other's schools. Guys, my prediction is in 5 to 10 years, you're going to see, for instance, from the Pac-12, Cal, Stanford, Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, all split up into being parts of the Big Ten and parts of the SEC. There's no reason that the SEC wouldn't want to expand their footprint to California, and the same thing to the West Coast for the Big Ten as well. So they fit profiles academically for the Big Ten. I just think it's kind of a foregone conclusion at this point that that's going to happen, because what rules the roost? TV and the money involved, and the online platforms. As I said, we were talking about ESPN Plus earlier. Same kind of thing.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. That's been a lot of what I've been hearing about it from various different personalities and such. So to hear you break it down like that, and honestly, it all makes sense at the end of the day when you point out the television
one other
contracts.
Thing to keep in mind with it is that live sports are still the only truly important thing to watch at the moment. Like, you can watch them later, but this is not Netflix or anything like that. TV shows, it's not like that really anymore. There's no like water cooler type moments at work. It's, did you watch Ted Lasso yet? No, I gotta watch it tonight. I'm catching up. But did you watch the game last night? You don't say, no, I'm going to watch it tonight. No, no, of course. Yeah. You have to have watched it then. So that's why live sports will continue to be the most important television property that there is. And that's why you see the money flowing around as we do.
Well, speaking of games that you speak of for water cooler talk, and one of the most important games of the season, we had the Field of Dreams game a couple weeks ago, and there's talk of it becoming a normal thing, showing up every year. And there's other talks I've heard of it going into other leagues such as the NBA and the NHL, except their own concept of it, however they could do it. Like when they had that college game playing on the aircraft barrier, battleship, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, what were your thoughts on the Field of Dreams game? And is this something you think they should continue on every year, or should it be once every 2 years? Or are they going to ruin the specialness of it if it becomes a regular thing and expands into other leagues?
I don't necessarily think they're going to ruin it. It was an anniversary, and that's why it was important. I mean, it was, what was it, 1989 that it came out? And they finally were able to do it. I think it's cool. I was actually talking to Matt Park, who calls the games for Syracuse, and Matt went to the game and said it was incredible, absolutely incredible, and loved every aspect of it. I think that's difficult to ruin. I don't anticipate the specialness being taken out of it. Everybody is always looking for something new, right? And the NHL did it with their stadium series and the first outdoor hockey games and such that really started several years back. And that was really good. And then it kind of fizzled out a little bit. Everybody is always looking for their newest type of, just special event. If you do it once a year and you just make it, 2 different teams every year, I think it's cool. I really don't have any thought that that's not going to be something that everybody's going to enjoy. I do. There's something about playing in the middle of a cornfield that's pretty cool. At the same time, you just don't want to force things. You don't want to force things. That's why it worked so well this year. It was the Yankees and the White Sox. It was all great and all that, but just recognize it for what it is. A very cool thing to bring it to a place. Dyersville, Iowa does not, I don't know how far Chicago is, but it's not a 90-minute ride. I can guarantee you that. So it's not like, I think bringing it to places where there aren't baseball teams, where there aren't major league teams, is an interesting concept. Like where are some places around the country, Midwest, wherever, that don't necessarily have teams? Do we want to bring a game to Oklahoma somewhere and I'm just spitballing here when I said it. Is that going to be as special as the Field of Dreams game? No, but it'd be kind of cool to let people in other cities really get a true feel for what having Major League Baseball is like. I have no question that you're going to see it in Vegas within the next 10 years, that there's going to be a franchise in Vegas at some point. But I think you'll see that with Vegas in the background at the minor league park there. I'm kind of going on and on about this, but I just feel like there's always something special that you can do with it to make it a little bit different.
If they don't have Kevin Costner showing up every year, Chris, I'm gonna have to riot or something, because I heard they paid that man a good chunk of money. I need to see it. But we're just gonna go straight into the rapid questions since we're wrapping up here. So first rapid question I gotta use, since it's football season, who's gonna have the better season, Sam Darnold or Zach Wilson?
Zach Wilson, not by much, but Zach Wilson.
Nice. So next rapid fire question here, kind of to play on what we've been talking about a lot in terms of the work you've done in your career. One interview that you haven't done yet that you would love to do, whether it be, in the immediate future or something you're planning down the line.
Oh, wow. Wow. Boy, it sounds too cliche to say Jordan because everybody wants that, but you know, I just want, and I know the answer to this because I actually got annoyed earlier in the week about the Hall of Fame speech. I felt like he could have opened up more and he didn't. I'm just begging Jeter to open up at some point, and I would. It's like trying to break into Fort Knox to get into him to just show you a little bit of the inside about what he is. And if you were able to do that, I think it would be incredible. There aren't too many others. Rob Manfred is one that I would love to do. I've actually done it before, but it was at Joe Torre's golf tournament. It was several years ago, and you were kind of limited in 8 to 10 minutes, something like that. I really would love to pick his brain leading into this offseason in particular, because I think there are things that are happening that are not good for the game. And I would really want to talk to Rob Manfred.
That's a good one. We would definitely listen to that because we've mentioned Rob Manfred a couple times and how his tenure has gone on the show. That'd be an amazing listen.
Yeah, I think Rob is he's a complicated commissioner in that he doesn't necessarily come across the best on camera or in how he delivers his message. He's pretty blunt, but at the same time, part of that I respect about him.
I used to actually think he was the best commissioner in all of sports until recently with a couple of his slip-ups as of late. So I'm just going to stick to sports questions. Do you think my New York Mets will make the playoffs this year?
I think you're going to be very disappointed come October. I'm sorry.
I already set myself back in April. When we were at first, Chris, I knew it wasn't good.
I tell you what, you need to clean house, because the indications we got this week is Sandy Alderson thinks he's going to be part of this decision-making process going into next year, and that just can't be the case. You need to get – he served his purpose. He helped get the team for Steve Cohen. You need to get somebody else in there to really build that team from the bottom up.
I've said the same thing because, it's a whole new owner, but we're still the same old Mets. So
yeah,
I know.
Same old Mets, I know. But the problem is you just cannot get out of your own way. It's just painful. Anyway.
Well, keeping with the theme of teams with meddlesome owners, but actually as of last season, it looks like they might be starting to fix things, are the New York Knicks. Just a simple question with the Knicks. Do you think with the moves that they made this offseason and how the team is going to continue to gel under Coach Tibbs in year 2, just simply, can they make it to the second round this year? The first round has been something the Knicks haven't gotten out of in quite a while, well over a decade. Well, around a decade, going back to the last appearance in the playoffs with Melo. Do you think this Knicks team has what it takes? If they get like a good lucky draw in the first round, they can make it to the second?
Yeah, they would need a draw that's a good matchup for them. I still think they're in the bottom half of the Eastern Conference. I think they're a little bit better than last year right now. They've got more scoring, which is obviously something they needed in the worst way. They're not beating a top 3 team in the East. I still think they could actually beat the Atlanta Hawks. That was just not a great matchup for them this past year. I like what they have now, but I think they need the right matchup for that to happen.
That's fair.
Our entire network would be jumping in joy if they heard you said that they've beaten the Hawks.
We work with a lot of Knicks fans, so we have to ask that for them.
And our last rapid fire question for the NFL is, who do you think is going to be the sleeper team for this year? Because there's always at least one black sheep who just pops up out of nowhere. This year, it's definitely not going to be the Ravens, it looks like. So who is your sleeper team?
I'm going with the Chargers. I like the Chargers a lot, and not just because of Justin Herbert. If their defense can stay healthy, Derwin James is a tremendous player. And, we know what Joey Bosa is capable of. I really like the Chargers and where they're headed. I think they're a very underrated team. I think they make the playoffs out west. They're not going to win the division, but I think they make the playoffs. Absolutely.
I actually love the new acquisition of their head coach, Brandon Staley from LA, because he's perfect for that defensive side, like you said. And he also played QB in college. A lot of people forget that. So he's perfect for Justin Herbert as well.
Well, I think it'll be a good fit. He did a tremendous job with the Rams last year. And, we'll see how this plays out with the Chargers. But I think this is going to be a good team.
Yeah, and especially for them, of course, a lot of people still mainly refer to it as the Rams Stadium, but with the Chargers sharing it with them, it'd be nice for LA if not only will the Rams, because they're a favorite to make the playoffs, it'd be nice if the Chargers get to make it too, and you get 2 playoff teams in the city to open up the new stadium in year 1. That'd just be the perfect crescendo for the first year of SoFi being open.
Yeah. And look, football being back in LA is, I just think, incredibly important. And of course, there should be 2 teams there. And I want to see those 2 teams supported well. And if you're winning, as we know in LA, they will show up.
Absolutely. And speaking of excitement showing up, Chris, we cannot thank you enough for being able to show up to this episode and to be able to interview you. Just the whole process of this, like, we've been excited for it, and for you to make time for us, like, we can't say it enough. We kind of hot-shotted right into this at the beginning, but we just really appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule to be able to talk to us. It truly was an honor.
No, come on. I'm happy to do it. I'm sorry that it took us a couple weeks to get it done, but I'm glad we were able to get it done. And my pleasure, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. I'm still calling in religiously to the show, Chris. Don't worry. You're still going to be hearing from me.
I love it, James. Thank you, brother.
James, do you want to give us like a proper outro of sorts? Let me say this to the people. I'll say this again. James is the reason this is happening right here. He's the one that put in all the work, all the emails, all the calls. James, like, this is yours. I want you say whatever you want to end this off. And also, before you go, Chris, like, obviously people know you, but anything you want to tell the people about projects you're coming up as well?
No, just, every night, 7 to 10 on ESPN New York, and Rutgers football right now. Those are my primary gigs at the moment. So very excited for that. And I'm kind of excited to get back into a rhythm after a crazy summer with the night show. So it'll be good. Thanks, guys.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Chris. And as Dirk said, I'm not going to take all the credit because I did show up late today. I'll let the fans know that. I apologize once more to you, Chris, but thank you so much for showing up. Everybody, please check him out. As he said, 7 p.m. to 10 on ESPN. It's a great show. He might pitch you off a little bit, so be ready for that, but he doesn't do it on purpose. He has facts all the time. That's why I love him. But regardless, thank you one more time for joining us, Chris. All our listeners, you guys know what to do. Follow us, Snapchat, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all the good stuff. Like, subscribe, review. Once more, Chris, thank you. It was a pleasure. Dream come true. Thank you, man.
Thanks, guys.